Hello YouTube, hope everyone's keeping well out there. Now, the first thing you might notice, any of those that are out there that are familiar with my videos and watch any of my content, the view looks different. So just as a heads up, I will do a little room update tour, maybe in the summer, as and when I can. But this is a collection video. I believe I've done about 6 or 7 collection videos now. I've got this one and a few more to do, but I don't have an extensive amount of systems. But this one is a video that's been long in the making. I've wanted to get around this for a while, but as ever, it's just time, isn't it? So what I'm going to do is go through the games. I won't waffle on too much about the Nintendo 64 console too much, because I have done a Nintendo 64 memories video, which is on my channel. Please go and check it out if you so wish. But yeah, the Nintendo came out, what was it, 90? I've got some details down here. March 97 it says here in the UK. So I was what, 19, 20, 21 when I had the actual system. Saved up and got this as my first system with my own money from my Saturday job. Cost an absolute bloody fortune. You know, that's in the other video as well. But yeah, and then sewed this one on later on to get the Dreamcast, which I really enjoyed as well. But there was a lovely window in my formative years and of the age of, you know, parties and yeah, good times, merriment, friends, gatherings, things like that. So, you know, that sort of gives you the sort of time frame for the sort of this video game system for me. I know a lot of people out there have a bit of an issue with the N64 that hasn't aged well, and I get that, I see that, I understand that, and again, I've argued this before, that I think it's the PlayStation and the N64 that haven't aged very well with that sort of first step in the 3D graphics for all game designers, really. I mean, obviously some games have aged far better than others. I know Sony went for a route where the pixels were actually shown on their polygons and textures, where N64 went for that kind of smudged out pixely look, so things do tend to look a bit muddy and a bit dank color wise, and of course it's notorious for its fogging, isn't it, the N64? So but for me, I've got loads of nostalgia for the system. I think it, you know, it holds a very dear place in my heart, and I think if you connect it via the right cables, get it RGB modded or whatever, and set it up to an CRT TV, it looks absolutely great. I've got no problems with the system myself. But like most things, you know, you go back to some of the games with rose tinted glasses and yeah, it's not quite the same as you remember, and it takes you a little while getting back into that sort of control system. Right, so on with the games. Now, my collection, as far as I'm concerned, is kind of finished, although maybe and hopefully some of you people out there watching this can suggest a couple of games I really need to check out and maybe look to get into the collection. Leave, you know, comments in the description below. But I'm happy with what I've got here. These are all games that I owned, friends owned, memories attached to these games, games that I saw in magazines. I would say on the internet, but it's sort of just prior to the internet, where whenever I got access to the internet like that. But certainly TV programs. You remember Bits? I think that was on in the late 90s with a 3 or 4, was it, female hosts. Used to enjoy watching that. Anyway, was it Bits? I can't remember. But yeah, I'm happy with the collection. About, what have I got here? About 59, it says, games in my app. So I'm going to go through these in alphabetical order like I usually do. Starting with a game that's synonymous with the N64 system, 007 GoldenEye. Back when this came out, I lived with my parents, but they had a garage and garage conversion, and my bedroom was in there. So I'd have all my mates come back, and you know, we had so many good times in there. You know, sort of partying, sort of room. We're all contained, we're all safe. You know, my mum and dad knew we were all there. You know, having a few drinks. You know, obviously with the age and things, and smoking some cigarettes. And generally having a good time. And the N64 was definitely a couch co-op powerhouse with its 4 ports into the system. And yeah, just had some sublime times playing many multiplayer games on the N64, and just got good solid memories of this. And the RCP gun, and yeah, it was great. And even some of the maps now, are really good. But me and my friend did boot this up not too long ago, and yeah, it takes you a little while to get back used to the controls. I know at the time it was groundbreaking, but so then we got 007, The World Is Not Enough. It's supposed to be quite good. I booted it up and started it because this is designed for the expansion pack as well, which smooths out some of the graphics, as you all know, for the console. But I need to go back and play this one. I've heard good things about it. I'm going to pile them all up here, make a nice wall of games. 1080 snowboarding. Now, as I've said, the console itself was expensive, but the games, I know people bang on about the price of games now, but man, this was really expensive as well, especially, you know, taking into consideration inflation and things like that. I think, you know, 50 was a cheap game, all the way up to Turok later on, which was about 70 quid, or that's one of the most expensive games I remember paying for. So your game library was very minimalist, let's say. You know, you had a few games, a bit like even the older days when you were a kid. You had a few games for your console and you just played them religiously. Now, I was just waiting for an N64 game to come out. At the start, with any launch of a console, there was a window, and you know, some of these games were just trickling out. But I really loved the system. I was keen to give something a try. I'm not a massive fan of snowboarding games, but I have played many in my time and had some great sessions with friends. And this is a really good one, and it was at the time. The snow physics and effects were great, but again, it's rudimentary by today's standards, but back in the day it was great. Beetle Adventure Racing. Now this one I only become aware of since becoming a collector. The real thing with this, and I've played it a good few times and it is very, very good. The thing with this one is all the hidden secret tracks and secret areas and shortcuts that you get in the game for each level. Really, really good. Great mechanics. Plays like an absolute dream. Should be in everyone's N64 game collection. Blast Corps. Owned this back in the day and was really intrigued by it. Just a real unique concept. Basically, you've got this nuclear, is it like a nuclear missile warhead on a trajectory, and you have got to use vehicles to clear the path so it doesn't blow up on, you know, upon impact. And I really like the premise of it. A game by Rare. I didn't get too far in it, but this is definitely one I'm going to pick up again and play. That was one of the early game titles, I think, for the N64. Bomberman 64, and I haven't even booted this one up yet. I've only played really the Bomberman on the ones on the Super Nintendo around my friend Anthony's back in the day. BanjoTooie, a platformer. Many regard this as better than Mario 64. For me, it's not. I still prefer Mario 64. Lots to do, lots to collect in this, but definitely showed that Rare had the chops on the N64 as they did for the Super Nintendo before that, to pump out some fantastic games for Nintendo. I remember playing this when I was really, really ill, and I remember it being summer. I borrowed the game from a friend, then got really ill, and you know, proper fluey, hallucinating and being really delirious and things like that. And then as I was coming round, and it just being boiling hot outside the garage conversion and in the garden, and then just gradually getting better, and then picking this up and playing it whilst recovering, whilst it was boiling hot outside. It was 97, summer 97. If any of you guys remember, that was a cracking summer. So I remember it anyway, my rose tinted. And then one I haven't played still was BanjoTooie. Now I think this one commands a bit of a price now, doesn't it? But yeah, this is in lovely condition. All my games, I believe, are complete. I was very adamant when I was collecting these to make sure they were complete, and then it's, you know, as good a condition as I would want to afford. So yeah, this was on the list to play. Apparently not as good as the previous one, but I think it's a bit more of a collectathon. They sort of up to that ante a bit too much, Rare. But let me know in the comments below your thoughts on which one's better. Body Harvest. This one looked unique as well, and it's sort of, I always got a bit confused seeing screenshots of this and Blast Corps. It's like an action adventure game, and I think you play as this guy, and it's like is it over the shoulder or 3D third person perspective, Isn't there a time traveling mechanic in there? Alien sort of wars. I don't know. Clutching at fragments of memories that I have about the game. I did own the previous vanilla version of this, but wanted to get this one because, well, it was a bit more collectible and it was the better game experience apparently. And the first version of this they released, they sort of rushed this out, I think, a Castlevania title, and yeah, it was quite buggy. It didn't really flow well, and in this version, the Legacy of Darkness, they polished that up and just refined things a little bit more. I think there were some other elements they addressed as well, maybe giving the content a bit more padding to explain some story. But I still haven't got round to this one. It's not supposed to be by any means one of the best Castlevania games in the series, but it's a curiosity that I am definitely looking forward to play because I love the Castlevania games. This one's notorious for the system, and that's Conker's Bad Fur Day. I never played this back in the day, but my housemate did, and I'd always go in his room and watch him playing the first person game. But yeah, I used to sit down with him and yeah, have some drinkies and smoke some ciggies and play the multiplayer game in this with the teddies. Was it teddy bears versus squirrels, or I can't remember what it was, but it was like a World War II setting. It was really good fun, and yeah, hours of gameplay on that. But I actually went through the game myself a couple of years ago, since obviously being a collector, and it was okay, but I don't know, I think it's a product of its time. The game, the humour didn't quite land with me, and yeah, I found it very frustrating to play. Great game for the system, Diddy Kong Racing, and to me, I think if I had a gun against the old head, this one is better for me than Mario Kart 64. I was a little bit disappointed with Mario Kart 64 when they actually went with sprites for the main characters, and you know, maybe foolishly back then I wanted to see the leap to 3D, but I understand why Nintendo did that. They kept the memory down so they can have a better frame rate and paced game racing experience, so I completely get that. But at the time I was a little bit not. But this, you get more bang for your buck. You got a great single player experience in this, and yeah, brilliant game. You can fly in it, you're in the carts, and you've got the hovercraft as well for some of the courses. Really good. Right, I'm not sure how tall that wall's gonna go. I haven't played this, and I think it's supposed to be like one of the weakest ones from Rare's library, and it's Donkey Kong 64. And I think it's let down by just being like just a massive collectathon. You've got so many things to collect that it's like a bit overbearing. But again, I've played it. Doom 64, supposedly a very good version of the game. I have booted up numerous times over the years, and but not played it for any real length of time. But yeah, that's definitely one I'm going to go back to. Earthworm Jim. I'm not. I was never really a fan of this character. I just thought it was daft. It wasn't my sort of thing. I sort of think of this guy similar vein to Toe Jam and Earl and things like that. They just didn't quite do it for me. And at first, Rayman, although I think the Rayman games are really good, has that sort of quirky, silly look to it. But it's supposedly quite good, and I thought I'd pick it up. Still yet to play that one, and I must go through the ones on the Super Nintendo that I've got. Excitebike 64 plays really well, actually. Yeah, really good game. Obviously, the prior game for this was on the Nintendo, the NES, the original Nintendo. Yeah, they skipped the Super NES with that title. Extreme G. This was another game we used to play loads in the garage. Me and the lads, 4-screen, split screen racing, in a similar sort of vein to Wipeout and F-Zero, sci-fi, Tron-like bikes coasting along ridiculous roller coaster-esque tracks with banging 90s sort of techno tunes playing, and they had some great cheats in this one called Fisheye that really blurred the screen, and yeah, we used to used to love doing that. But what we used to do in some of the games, and this is harkening back to GoldenEye, I've explained about this before as well. We, on the TV, had a CRT TV, I think it was the 21-inch I had, and then I upgraded it when I had a job to a 32-inch widescreen. And the screen was obviously split into fours. And what we would do, so the other person didn't know where you were running, like glancing over and sort of semi-cheating in the multiplayer games, was we created this massive like target of card that divided the screen up into fours, and then you would sit on your respected side. Meant that you couldn't peer into the other person's screen and cheat. But yeah, it was ridiculous, and we somehow stuck this to the TV screen. The things you do back in the day, but it was great fun. Extreme G2, more of the same really, slightly polished to the first one. F-Zero X, yeah, really good. This was one, when I owned this console, I first lived at mum and dad's, and then I went away for a year up into Taunton to do my graphic design degree year, my final year. So when I should be working really hard in halls of residence, you know, I had some cracking games coming out. One especially, you know, I bet you can imagine what it was that took so much of my time when I really should have been concentrating on work. But hey ho, it all turned out good in the end. But yeah, F-Zero, not quite as good as the one on the Super Nintendo, and definitely not as good as the one on the GameCube. I really like that one, and it's a toss-up between that and the SNES for me. The SNES version for nostalgia, but I think the GX is the better game for sure. But this is still really good, and it runs silky smooth at 60 frames per second, and they kept everything to a bare minimum Nintendo graphic-wise, just so they could get that frame rate up and have a nice smooth racing experience. Yeah, very good game. A must for the system. Now, the N64, I loved my fighters back in the day. A few friends had the PlayStation with Tekken, what was the other one? Battle-Arena Toshinden and Battle-Arena Toshinden 2 that we used to play. And there was just no fighting games coming out for this, but this one wasn't bad. And granted, this one wasn't bad, but it wasn't great really. It's probably one of the best that we had on the system. It's Fighter's Destiny. Had a very minimal amount of characters. This guy's like obviously like your Ryu, Street Fighter character. Yeah, I remember a guy called Claude, was it? A clown or something? I don't remember. I'm sure, yeah, there's the clown. I'm sure he's called Claude. And he was quite acrobatic. I remember enjoying playing with him. But yeah, still got the HMV stick on the back there, $49.99. Jesus. Yeah, it's not bad, but the system is just not known for its fighting games. Forsaken, thought this one looked really good. It got decent-ish reviews. I think it's like a 7 out of 10 sort of game. Don't really know too much about it. Need to give that one a go. It's there for when I have the time to play it. I think this one's like an action RPG, and a lot of people say this is a bit of a a hidden gem, hybrid heaven. And yeah, it's got like a sci-fi Blade Runner-esque dynamic. You use cyborgs in it. I think it's RPG light. It's not like a real in-depth RPG, but it's like an action-adventure game. Don't know too much about it. I used to know quite a bit about many of these games, but over the years in collecting all these games, sort of just all the knowledge of each just sort of disappear. This was one of the weaker rare games, and it's Jet Force Gemini. It feels really chunky. It must have a massive manual or something in there. Was really looking forward to getting this one. This was one of the last for the system, wasn't it? They released. But yeah, some of the 3D graphics here look quite derpy now, but yeah, it did look really good, and the science fiction aspect to it I really liked. It's supposed to be really quite hard, quite difficult, quite a lengthy game. And I think it was frustrating in the sense that you couldn't progress past a certain point or even complete the game unless you collected X amount of these things scattered through all the games. So yeah, that was one of the reasons where it's just sort of held me off from playing it. Another game we played loads, Killer Instinct Gold. I think this was basically Killer Instinct 2 from the arcade, wasn't it? So yeah, loads of good fun with this one. And similar to the SNES version, Killer Instinct 1. Kirby, I do like my Kirby, he's alright, the little pink blob, bless him. And yeah, this is supposed to be quite a good game. I haven't played it. Right. It's a nice thick chunky one as well. Zelda, Majora's Mask. Never played this back on the day on the system. I only got around to playing this on, it was the GameCube version that has this and a few other Zeldas on there. Played this, what, a couple years ago, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. Not one of my favourite Zeldas, but, and I can see why people like it, and I can see why people don't like it so much. It's sort of different to the norm. It's got a much darker theme, which I quite liked. But yeah, it is a very good game. Never got round to playing it though back in the day. This one, on the other hand, and this is the one I was referring to earlier, where I'm away doing my degree, you know, should be putting my heart and soul into this course to make sure I get a decent grade to get the career and job that I want. Bloody Nintendo released this around Christmas of, was it 98? I can't remember. Was it 98, 99, 98? Can't remember. 98. And yeah, brilliant. Didn't disappoint. Really good game. I still prefer A Link to the Past, but Ocarina of Time, it, you know, goes down in history as a fantastic game. Great gaming experience. Fantastic world to explore. Great, you know, the Z controlling system and lock-on system for the fighting of enemies was brilliant. And the final battle with Ganon, Dorf and Ganon, one of my favourite boss battles of all time, or most nostalgic and memorable experience boss battles of all time. Mario Golf, like my golf games, like my tennis games, and but I prefer like the more arcadey ones to the Sims, and obviously this one's far more arcadey. Yeah, really good fun. I like all the Mario Golf and tennis games on most of their systems. And Mario Tennis, just good arcade fun. Mario Kart 64, great 4-player game. Micro Machines 64, haven't played that one yet. Apparently quite good. I'm not sure if it's as good as the ones on the Mega Drive and the SNES, but Mischief Makers. Now I remember playing this back in the day. I remember reading in magazines, and it sort of got you like your 7 out of 10, but I thought the game looked really quirky and very Japanese in flavour. Treasure game, and any of you who are aware of Treasure now, they've always got their signature kind of like quirkiness, zaniness on their games. And I remember playing it, and it sounds, you know, a bit embarrassed about saying it now, but I was put off by the 2D or the 2.5D graphics back then. I was a bit of a snob. I wanted everything in 3D. Foolish me. And never finished it. But since becoming a collector, I picked this up again and played it a good few years ago now and finished it. The shake mechanic that you've got to dispatch of your enemies, really good. And some great legendary sort of treasure-esque boss battles in there. Someone played this one, Gorman, aka Legend of the Mystical Ninja, isn't it? Yeah, Mystical Ninja starring Gorman. I haven't played this one yet. And yeah, should say, all of these, I've got those acrylic plastic protectors on there. Definitely needed for these games in the Super Nintendo. Operation Wimback. This is supposed to be okay, and I think it was kind of the N64's answer, correct me if I'm wrong, to Metal Gear Solid. Yeah, sort of stealth, espionage, spy game. Paper Mario. Now this is near the top of my games I must play soon pile for the N64. It's probably right at the top actually. I'm cracking up to play 1,000 Year Door and beat that one, but I want to start at the beginning, and I booted this up for about an hour or so a couple of years ago and really enjoyed it. And again, on CRT TV with a decent cable, it looks really good. It's really held up the test of time, this one. Perfect Dark. Arguably, well, it is a kind of better game, isn't it, than GoldenEye? But GoldenEye sort of is just much more nostalgic and memorable. But this was a great game. I loved playing through the single player on this, and the expansion pack for this was an absolute must. It just you know, yeah, it smoothed out some of the textures and the graphics, but it just made things run a little bit smoother, which is essential in a first-person shooter game. Really, really good. Was it Elvis, the Alien in Perfect Dark as well? Pilot Wings. I do like these games. I love the game on the SNES. Didn't own this one for quite a while. This was I think this was a release title for it, wasn't it? Was it this? Mario 64, and then something come out. Was it Wave Race a few weeks after, if memory serves? And yeah, borrowed this from a friend and really, really enjoyed it. That giant robot monster running around the island. Yeah, really good. Just good, simple, clean Nintendo fun, that game. Right, last one for this section. And then I'll jump back up there and get the next half down. Rebeltron 64. I love the Rebeltron arcade game. It wasn't one that I ever played back in the day, but it was always one I would see in YouTube videos and things like that and be like, man, that looks right up my street. Real crazy, intense, bonkers colours. And in this one they've got, they've updated it obviously with a 3D aspect. But the music in this is of its time as well. That mid to late 90s like dance, techno-y track, dance music. It's, yeah, product of its time again, and it just takes you back when you listen to it and you play it. But yeah, it's a good game. That's very good. Right, I'm going to move these back now and then get the last half out. Right, the last pile of games here, and silly me, I forgot about this one. I keep all the big box games on my top row there. It's this beast, Lilac Wars, bloody Star Fox, but I think somewhere in Europe someone owns the name Star Fox, so there was a copyright infringement there. So yeah, Lilac Wars, great game. First game that come out with the legendary Rumble Pack, which added that extra sense of immersion. Bit gimmicky, but obviously at the time I remember it being really good for this game, that sort of arcadey shooter when you got hit, the vibration going, and obviously it's gone down well because everyone else seems to have adopted it ever since in their controllers and into their tech. So yeah, Nintendo there first again, bless them. But I remember it was pissing down with rain, getting the bus into town in a Virgin Mega store and getting this game. 60 I think this was, wasn't it? 59.99. Laying down my hard-earned cash from a Saturday job, getting to a phone box afterwards. Reading, ringing my mate Neil, saying, Neil, what you doing? Nothing. I've just bought this game. Fancy coming up and playing it. I met him back at my house. We smoked quite a few cigarettes and played the hell out of this, and he just didn't want to leave to go home. Yeah, it was a really good game, really arcadey, great fun. And obviously you've got the branching paths in this that's synonymous with the Star Fox games, depending on which rings you go through, and you've got like a couple of diversion routes. If you meet certain criteria in the level, then you can go on to a different and harder route level to what's he called? Not Davros, what was he called? Got his name. Oh, what was he called? Was it Davros? No, that was the Daleks, wasn't it? Oh my god, brain fart, apologies. It'll come to me in a minute. No, it won't. He just reminded me of the BFG, a big floating head, and then you like blast bits off him and it reveal a robot mechanical mecha head underneath. Yeah, great game. Really good fun memories for that one. Gonna be thinking about that for a while now. Snowball Kids, good fun, plays really well. I think the second one of these is supposed to be very collectible, isn't it? Wasn't that released in Australia only? I can't remember. But yeah, this is really good fun. Great game by Atlas. Space Station Silicon Valley. I remember looking in the magazine and thinking, what on earth is this? And even reading about it, it just seems so zany and out there. I can't remember what it was about, but I think you take on the personas of all these different creatures. Is that right? Can't quite remember. I don't know if it's an RPG, but more of like a action adventure platformer. Just looks so you know, unique, that game. Star Wars Episode 1 Naboo, Battle for Naboo. It's actually very good. I haven't played this one. I did play a little bit of it on my mate's N64. He really loved the game. But I did go back and play this one. I never owned this back in the day. Again, my mate did. He's a huge Star Wars fan. And it's Rogue Squadron. And for this game, if you've got it, and if you haven't got it, get it. The expansion pack is a must for this. It really smooths up the game, and it's a definite difference. You know, you can really see it. And yeah, good game. Played it through to completion. I didn't get all the gold standard medal rating or anything like that. I just wanted to beat it. I got to go back to this one as well. I remember booting this up. Hang on, this was a launch game as well, wasn't it? Wasn't it? Yeah, I'm sure it was. This Pilot Wings and Mario. I remember booting this up and playing that first Battle of Hoth level. You know, one of my favourite film from the Star Wars franchise is Empire Strikes Back, and Battle of Hoth with the music and everything is just epic. And playing that, I remember at the time being like, oh my god, look how real it looks. Obviously completely different to, you know, by today's standards. But really good. How they really captured that battle scene was just fantastic. And then after that, it went on to Matey. What's he called? The name of the chap in this. What's he called? Dash Rendar. That's it. Who's actually, I think he was created in the Star Wars books, wasn't he? Yeah, and you're sort of running around shooting stormtroopers and things, and you've got different levels like that. I didn't get quite far, but it's a bloody tough game. And yeah, one I do want to see through to completion one day. Super Mario 64. This is just excellent, excellent. Obviously, the camera and things have aged it a little bit now, but at the time, this was absolutely jaw-dropping. I remember seeing this in Toys R Us, seeing little Billy and a few of his mates playing on this thing, seeing the N64 cab and the TV, and just running over, almost wanted to push him out of the way, but I got in trouble for that, so I didn't, and have a go myself. But when I saw the screen and Mario running around and just the fluid motion of the gentle push of the stick, the analog stick, of them walking and then putting it down, you know, really putting into it, and then he starts running around, I was like, oh my god. Oh my god. And that classic first level with the music, brilliant. I was like, I've got to get an N64. That was my sole purpose in life from that point on. And yeah, this game is fantastic. I'm playing it through again, trying to get all the stars. I'm about halfway through the stars and halfway through the game. I'm trying to go through the game and get all the stars as I go, and I just put that on when I've got like a 10-minute window here and there and try to get a couple more stars. Yeah, just phenomenal game, seminal game. Super Smash Brothers, the game that started it all. I didn't mind the series and really got into it with friends on the GameCube, Melee. Going back to this one, you can see it's an early iteration of the game. It's not as good as Melee. I still think Melee's the best, but then I haven't played the latest one. But yeah, it's okay, but I prefer the latter games compared to that one. Now this one was off my radar, Tarzan, and it's supposedly really, really good. I saw some gameplay of it and thought it did look good. Sort of a 2.5D left to right action platformer, and yeah, apparently a bit underrated, and yeah, very good game. I think that one's quite hard to get hold of now. Tetrasphere, only played this a few times and really, really enjoyed it. I don't mind my puzzle games from time to time, not a huge fan, but every now and again, just to sort of break up the monotony of shooting something or dodging and collecting something and jumping around, I like a puzzle game. And this one had like a nice, unique sort of look to the Tetris formula. Really good. Top Gear Rally. It wasn't really like its fighters, but maybe not as bad. The N64 wasn't really renowned for its races, and compared to the PlayStation with the likes of Gran Turismo and Colin McRae I used to really like back in the day, and Demolition Derby and things. But I actually borrowed this and thought, oh, it's just not that great. But I played it and I really got into it. It's a bit of a guilty pleasure, this one, and a nostalgic game, so that's why I had to pick this one up again. And yeah, it's all right. It's one of the better racing games on the N64, I think. Let me know out there if there's any others I should really be looking into. Turok. My God, I loved this game when it first came out. 70 freaking quid though for the bloody thing. 70 quid. Christ, I was like, oh, it looks so good. I'm just gonna have to get it. So laid down my cash and got this thing, got it home, and I was like, you know, graphics will not get better than this. This is cutting edge, which is just obviously hysterical now looking back, but at the time, sublime. Terrible fogging in this, going back to it, but the animations of, you know, all the different weapons you would get as Turok, from the bow and arrow to the pistol, and then going up to these ridiculous powerful weapons like that nuke and the chronoceptor. You find parts to this legendary weapon that you build together, and you need that for the final boss. I love the game. I loved it, and watching the animation of some of the guys, the enemies, if you shot them, say in the leg, they'd hobble or fall over. I can't remember, but or you shoot them in the neck and they would grab their neck and blood would be spurting out. I was like, oh my God. Just really added to that immersion, and it just felt so cutting edge at the time. Loved the game, and the massive boss battles, fighting T-Rex near the end, and then the final boss was really, really good in this as well, without giving it away. But yeah, I've just got great memories of Turok. Now this is the better game, Turok 2 Seeds of Evil. Played, you know, all these through to completion, and this was a really good one for multiplayer as well. As I alluded to in that one, talking about the ridiculous weapons in the game, in this they went above and beyond again. You had something called the cerebral bore, which would lock onto an enemy's, or in multiplayer, an opponent's head, zoom in, and as the name suggests, bore its way into the skull and then explode the head. So satisfying, so disgusting. One of the most unique and best weapons that comes to mind in video games as soon as I think weapons in video games. But another game that's a must with the expansion pack. Really smooths out the graphics and the gameplay. Turok 3, I haven't played this one yet. It's supposedly quite good. Yeah, don't know too much about it. Is it more the same? Did they add any sort of complicated story to it or anything? I'm not sure. But that's what I quite liked about Turok and Turok 2. It didn't get too bogged down with some silly story. It was just go and shoot things and try not to die. And this was more of like a multiplayer game, the Rage Wars Turok game. Don't think I ever played that one back in the day, actually. Wave Race 64, brilliant. It's water physics still talked about now, and yeah, I had great times playing this with my mate Steve's from art college. We go up his, but bunk off from college every now and again, watch a bit of Quincy, put this back on, and yeah, then go up the shop and get some steaks and a couple of beers. It was great. But yeah, really, really good game. Lovely and arcadey. Nice Nintendo charm to it. Would love to see Nintendo bring out another version of Wave Race. Don't know why they're not doing it. Wipeout 64, apparently quite good on the N64. Obviously synonymous with the PlayStation console. I think the music is taking a bit of a compression hit, getting it onto cartridge, but yeah, apparently quite good. World Cup 98, got great memories of playing this religiously, drawing names out of a hat, doing all these tournaments with like 8 of us up in my room, smoke-filled room, and playing for hours just in these tournaments with this game. This was kind of the game for the N64 football game that's in similar vein to International Superstar Soccer Deluxe that I had on the Super Nintendo prior to this, that we would all play in tournaments on and just have a whale of a time. Yeah, I remember it being really good. probably plays crap by today's standards. And wrestling games, I'm not a massive wrestling fan at all. I had the sticker album back in the day, and that was probably about it. But I've heard, through becoming a collector, doing my research, looking at YouTube, that there's a few that I really should have picked up, and this is one of them. No Mercy, apparently still held as one of the best wrestling games by many people of all time. Let me know. And one last one. It's that lovely green jolly dinosaur Yoshi's Story. Played this, beat it. You can beat it in next to no time. It's a very short game. You know, I'd have been quite peed paying out, what, 50 quid for this, and then just completing it in, say, like 2 or 3 hours. But lovely game, very charming. There's just not enough game content in there, really. But yeah, there you go. And that is the N64 game collection. As I said at the start, it'd be great if I haven't got any here that maybe I should check out. I think, is it Wet Tricks? The puzzle game comes to mind when I think of ones that might be on the horizon. And I remember James, Flashback TNT, as I made a video for quite a while, he had a game in his collection. I think he's got a complete collection. I'll leave a link in the description before. Now, there's a guy who loves his N64, you know, very nostalgic to him as it is to me and many others as well. Go and check his video out. But in his collection, it was like a fan-made game, not an official license, and it was Goldfinger for the N64, made with assets, I'm guessing, from the engine of the James Bond games. Not too sure, but that one piques my interest. It's probably balls hard to get hold of now, I don't know. But there you go. As I said at the start of the video, I've got a room tour coming up, just a little update. It won't be a massive thing, just to show you how the room's looking now. Obviously it's a different layout, which is much more functional for gaming, and for me that's what the games room needs to be about. I want to come up here, sit down and just play games. I'm really pleased with it. It's not the biggest room, and the next vid I'm planning on doing is a pickups video, which is running late. It's just so busy. Time is precious, finite. It's going to be a pickups video, yeah, for the months of March and April. So yeah, that'll be coming out hopefully within the next week or two. I don't really want it to go on another month or so, but we'll see. Anyway, enough of me waffling. Thanks very much, people out there. Hope everyone's well. Take care, stay safe, and I'll see you again. Hang on a minute. I remember in my collection videos, I used to look at peripherals as well. Now, there's not loads for the N64, but I did fancy picking up a couple of choice controllers for the system. Now, I've obviously got the packed in grey controller. This one, which is like the off black grey controller, a bit of a story with this one as well. The N64 would have come out, was really quite expensive, and within what seemed like, and I think maybe it was a few weeks, they reduced the console down to like from 70 to 50 odd quid. I can't remember the details. But anyway, I was quite peeved for this, as many of us were, us loyal Nintendo fans buying their console on day one, and then, you know, others benefiting by the reduced price. So anyway, sort of moaned a bit about it, and my dad said, well, why don't you write them a letter? I was like, okay. I wrote them a letter, and it was back in the days when you could write a letter to a company and they would actually read the bloody thing and care about you as an individual. And they wrote back to me with a letter of an apology, and they provided me with a controller like this, all brand new box, so that softened the blow, and I was really happy with that. And then probably, what, a week later or a few days later, there was another, you know, knock at the door. It was another letter from Nintendo with another black controller. So they'd obviously duplicated and sent me 2 controllers, which, you know, really softened the deal. I was very pleased with that. Anyway, the other controllers that I got, I've always got a thing for yellow controllers. I went for the yellow one. And the other one I always wanted was the gold one, to tie in with GoldenEye. And that is it. I've obviously got the expansion pack for the Nintendo console and a few Rumble packs as well. But that's it as far as it goes for peripherals. So there you go. That is definitely it now. Cheerio.